So this presentation is about Bazel. And first, so I'm RJ, and I'm a backend developer at High Output Ventures. But most of my tasks pertains to operations and DevOps. So one part of DevOps is to handle um, code-based management along with the code-based deployments, and also it helps how the software so do its releases. So I'll have a couple of prerequisites for this presentation. So Bazel has its I would say like a level of competence to before they can understand this tool. So they should be working. So a developer can only see its like value if he or she is working together with the team, and they need to have or they need to find better ideas on how to manage their team's code base. So introduction to Bazel. So before we can really start with the Bazel stuff, we will need to understand the motivation of why are we using Bazel. So the first motivation is the monorepo movement. So what is a monorepo? So monorepo is a source code management strategy that manages all code bases. We can say like multiple projects or multiple parts of a project into a single monorepo. So I'm saying that like for example, we have a single project and we have code base for web. We are using React.js, and then we have a separate code base for backend. Like for example, we are using GraphQL on a Node.js server, and then we have QA tests for quality test automation for quality assurance, and then we have infrastructure code. So we can combine all those things and then put it in a single repository, and yeah, we can manage it on a single repo. We can also do like if if a if we have multiple websites and then we want to manage them in like we want to see them in a single place, so we can also use a strategy. So the other side also, or the like its counterpart, or I would say like the opposing side of this would be polyrepo. So the idea is to use multiple repositories for different code bases. Like for example, web. So you have a separate repository for that. Backend API. For example, you're using Python, so you have a different code base for that. And tests, quality tests, so you have different code base for that. So each like sub team of the project will maintain their own repositories, and both has pros and cons. So both has pros and cons, but this presentation will focus on why are we using Monorepo. But I think that the biggest factor would be how your software development team are structured. So it depends on how you collaborate with each other. So if you are in a tight team working on a single project, for example, you have like two front end, back end, and then you have a lead and a QA and operations together working on the same project, and you are in a single team. So Monorepo would be a good strategy to handle those things. Everyone will have visibility on what the other developer is doing, and they can give feedback for example, a backend developer can, or a front-end developer can give feedback to a backend developer that he needs a certain structure of an API, or a backend can say that there are certain limitations on the data that he can get. So it kinds of blur the lines within with how they communicate, because they can see each other's code. And with Polyrepo, I mean, it can work, but I think the visibility um, would be only available to like leads that has like an over leads that oversee the entire software development cycle of the project. So why Monorepo? So we have come to a part where we have like we structured our teams into projects. Like if we get, or if we need to build a project, then we will get the necessary resources like back end, the front end, and then the QA and an operations guy, and then they will work together. So what happened is um they will, I mean, the structure of work would be like, it would be like isolated. I mean, the structure of work will be isolated per project. And that's, I have said, like it's also better for like collaboration and teamwork. So, but also we also have worked with microservices. If you have heard the term, where we create services for every like dedicated part of a big application. Um, so what we did was, in the first setup was, we started with the multi-repo setup, and certain people has only access to certain repositories. So I think that was the factor why we opt into polyrepo. But along the way, we have like discovered certain issues with how to deal with scaling. Like if the services are just too many, then um, certain tooling will be like, it will be slow and hard to like communicate across uh, key persons per service. So Monorepo, it enforces like close close communication and um, reusable libraries within a single repository. So we can say that so for example, we are using, node, like node.js. So in order for a node.js library for to be accessible to other repositories, is we need to maintain, or we need to create published node npm modules, and we will then pull those node modules to npm, and then we will check if the library has no breaking changes. So I think the workflow is a bit longer, because you need to like publish and then pull and then check, and then if it has errors, then we will need to update the certain library, and then the cycle repeats. So for Monorepo, we can just reference it internally because it's in the same repository, and um, we can just like uh, do some internal tooling for it to become uh, like efficient. So our monorepo use case, I think I've shared a bit. So for projects that has like multiple teams working on it, because in at HOV it's more like yeah, at HOV we favor more on people that has like certain specializations, so we don't do full stack developer. So there's a front end developer and a back end developer, and then an operations guy, and then you have that QA to do automated tests. So each of them has their own uh, code base or workspace, and then we put it in a single repository in a monorepo. And backend and front end will have separate deployments as well. So we do like they don't run on the same server. So we so front end is a separate deployment. React.js has Vercel or Next.js. They deploy it on Vercel, and then we have Node.js servers or Node.js like processes running on AWS. And also with introduction of Rust into the company, so we also deal with that with those kind of deployments as well. So I think that's the like the overview of how we deal with uh, code base structure in the company. So I think we will proceed to the Bazel basics. So what is Bazel? So I think I will just use the words that the team used for them to advertise their tool. Um, so it's a build tool for um, monorepo for monorepos. So I think that the selling point is one tool, multiple languages. So because we will have like services with different languages, and I think it's inevitable that developers will pursue like or will in will introduce more like different kind of tools and stuff. And we also wanted on like on the DevOps side to be flexible on the innovation. So Bazel comes in. So it says that it's speed up the builds, because when you have like polyrepo, I think the the advantage of having polyrepos would be is your builds would be parallel, because like every repository has its own build system. So when you have a monorepo, then you have a single build structure. So Bazel promises that it's speed up your builds and tests. So second one tool, multiple languages. So I think that's one. And then scalable. So as your code base grows, so Bazel also will be able to handle the load and the like the files and stuff. And then extensible. So I think this is also one of the selling point, because you can also create your own build rules. For example, we get into Rust. So Rust has no we can say has no like stable support as of the moment. So if we find ourselves having problems with the current ones, then we can create our own rules for us to build those things.